Welcome back to the Angry Man Podcast with Jason and Greg. So, interestingly, Frank Martin, who we thought was going to come back before the end of the year, but we now know more than likely he will come back toward the beginning of the year, most likely on Amazon Prime somewhere. He has interest in fighting William Zepeda. Now, we know that William Zepeda is a part of Golden Boy Promotion, and his promoter is Oscar De La Hoya. So, in making this statement, Oscar De La Hoya decided that he was going to weigh in on this, and he said absolutely he wouldn't mind having a fight between Zepeda and Frank Martin. However, Frank Martin needs to face Shakur Stevenson next. So I thought that was interesting, Jay. I don't know if it's just Oscar De La Hoya trying to figure out a way to hold Frank Martin accountable in terms of you need to face the guy that some people feel that Frank Martin ducked. Or is it a situation where he's just trying to steer Zepeda clear of Frank Martin because he knows his fighter is not going to be in a position to actually beat Frank Martin? Or a combination of both, because we know Oscar De La Hoya, he will present himself as somebody that's trying to make the biggest and best fights for the sport of boxing and then turn around and do something like this. So who knows? I mean, it's hard to really tell. Would I like to see Frank Martin in the ring with Shakur Stevenson? Absolutely. Should Frank Martin push for a fight against Shakur Stevenson? Absolutely. I'm of the mindset and the belief that it didn't give Frank Martin the best look, if you will, to step away from that fight, regardless of whether or not he felt that he needed more money to get in the ring with Shakur Stevenson. That made him look bad, and now people are going to always be able to use that as ammo against Frank Martin. In any situation, they're going to say, you had the chance to do this, or if he's asking for a title fight, well, you had the opportunity to get that title fight before. If you're asking for a fight with a superstar fighter in and around your weight class, well, you had the opportunity to do that, and you chose to bypass it for an extra $400,000, whatever. They're going to use that as ammo against Frank Martin, and that's the reason why I felt like he more than likely should have taken the fight. But we are where we are right now, and now Oscar De La Hoya can use that as ammunition when you try to face his particular fighter. So, Jay, what's your thoughts on that comment from Frank Martin as well as Oscar De La Hoya?
Comment from Oscar De La Hoya is stupid. I mean, for one, if Frank Martin goes and fights Shakur, he beats Shakur, he has no need to face Zepeda. So that kills that whole option there for him to fight Zepeda. Also, Oscar is kind of forgetting that didn't he pull Zepeda away from Shakur?
Yeah, he did.
Zepeda was in line to fight him too.
Yeah.
So how you want to act like you all big and bad and like Frank didn't do anything when you did the same exact thing, if not worse?
That's a great point.
So stop the BS, Oscar. I mean, I read some of his tweet on that. Some people tell him like you pulled Zepeda out, and then he goes at some of the Twitter people and oh, you're dumb, you don't know boxing. I'm like, Oscar, stop it, bro.
What is he talking about? He said that on an interview. He said that this isn't something that they're making up. He literally said that Zepeda wasn't ready for Shakur Stevenson. He said that out of his own mouth.
Exactly. But Oscar talks out both sides of his neck. This is what Oscar does. You can't say you sit there wanting to fight the best fight, make the best fights, and then when this video with this interview with Frank, which I believe was kind of old, I believe that was an older video, or released with Frank's talking about that, and say he needs to fight Shakur first. Yeah, that's definitely a better fight, Frank and Shakur, but you're not Shakur's promoter. You're Zepeda's promoter. You should be like, okay, let's get it done. Tell your people to call me, or I'll make the phone call. Instead, you're pushing off like that. I'm like, this don't make sense. That just means that, to me, that's look like you don't want Zepeda in there with Shakur. You don't want her in there with Frank. You just want Zepeda to try to get an easy belt from somebody else somehow. Since those belts been vacated. So I don't like it. It's trash, but it's Oscar being Oscar, man. Oscar does this stuff all the time. He's not one of my favorite fighters. He's not one of my favorite promoters at all. Out there the way he rolls, so it is what it is.
No, I feel the same. Like Oscar does Oscar things, and you can't make the statement that he needs to fight Shakur Stevenson first when you were not willing to have your fighter Zepeda fight Shakur Stevenson in the exact same manner. So I hadn't even thought about that after I read it, but yeah, that's true. That's 100% true. I don't believe he wants Zepeda in the ring with Frank Martin at this moment. Now, Zepeda was talking in a manner here recently after Shakur Stevenson faced Edwin De Los Santos, as though he was more than willing to now get into the ring with Shakur Stevenson. If that's the case, then why not be willing to get into the ring with Frank Martin? I mean, they are, to me,
Exactly.
Shakur is supposed to be the best fighter at that division outside of Gervonta Davis, the most skilled, so forth and so on. And if you have confidence that you can beat Shakur Stevenson, that confidence should also translate into confidence that you can beat Frank Martin. So I'm surprised that De La Hoya is taking this stance, but not exactly all that surprised, because that's what Oscar does. Frank needs to figure out what he's going to do next. I personally, and this is just my opinion, I think Frank wants the big names, but I think Frank wants an intermediary fight in between the big names. I think he wants 1 or 2 intermediary fights, like a William Zepeda, that may end up creating a level of demand that, would get him some incremental dollars versus what he's been earning here in his recent fights, and then take the next step to a Shakur Stevenson or a Gervonta Davis, something like that. So I think that the path or the plan for him, at least in his mind, was never those guys absolutely next. Although he's been saying he wants them next, I think it's like, I want them next.
Yeah. Now I can see. I was looking at the rankings. So in the WBC, Zepeda's number 2. Frank is down to 6.
Yeah.
So how the hell and why the hell would you tell him to fight Shakur first when you're higher in ranking on that? And it's been rumored that Loma's going to fight Kambosos. Loma's number 1, so that takes him out of there. So you're number 1 for Shakur. So why don't you say, like, nah, Frank, you got to wait. We want Shakur right now. We want a belt. But you ain't do that. So then when you move over to the WBA, William Zepeda's number 2. Frank's number 3. Isak Cruz number 1. We know Tank supposed to be possibly elevated to the champion for WBA, although he said he don't want it. So they might be doing a fight for a vacant title if Tank don't want it. So it makes no sense for me, Oscar, to say that, outside of he's just really trying to protect Zepeda from another loss. Because he said he wasn't ready for Shakur, and now he's pushing Frank on Shakur. It's like, it makes no sense to me for that logic. You're killing yourself as far as a payday and a good fight that you can make for your fighter. So who you gonna have Zepeda fight next? You gonna have him fight what? Keyshawn? Jermaine Ortiz? I mean, those cats are with Top Rank for 1, but this guy's actually calling you out. You gonna have him fight what? Maxie Hughes? I mean, right. It's just trash with Oscar right now. He's just going back and forth like he always does, though.
I don't disagree. You guys tell us what you think in the comment section in regards to Frank Martin and his comments relative to William Zepeda and Oscar De La Hoya's response. Don't forget to hate, like, comment, and subscribe. This is the Angry Man Podcast, AM Sports Media, and we are